I just learned that the next Zelda game is going to be $70, not $60. And it got me wondering, should it be? I mean, at that price, why not get Bloodied Fear for just $2 million? No, I can see why this costs $2 million. Today, $60 seems to be the standard. Even when I was a kid, that's how much a game would cost, and it always seemed like a fair price to me. But that was back in the 2000s, and given inflation, that's around $100 today. Can you imagine spending $100 on something like Crazy Frog Racer 2? Well, guess what? I don't have to imagine, because I did. If games back then costed $100, then maybe it makes sense that everyone is increasing the price of the games on their consoles. So Nintendo, they aren't alone here. I mean, the Switch is a next-gen console with next-generation level graphics and capabilities, so it only makes sense that some of the games on their console are going to cost $70, right? Now, this isn't the first time the price of games have increased. Between 1993 and 2001, games on average costed around $49.99. But then greedy Bill Gates releases the Xbox in a game about a guy in space in love with an AI in his head and says, $60, please. Dwayne, you could have stopped this, but you just stood there and smiled. Back then, I was too young to get this game, but I bet it sucked and it wasn't even worth $60. To some, $50 sounds like a good deal in the 90s, but when taking into account our friend inflation, that's around $100. It's Crazy Frog all over again. We also need to keep in mind that game development is only getting more expensive, and as time goes on, everything rises in price due to inflation. So it only makes sense that the yearly Ubisoft release to cost even more, right? Okay, maybe not, but to be fair, game prices have always been weird and all over the place. The Last of Us, $60 on release, that's a good price. Hollow Knight, $20 on release, that's a good deal. Cyberpunk, $60 on release, and that's a buggy mess. And Genshin Impact, all it costs is your data. But what about Breath of the Wild 2? I mean, Tears of the Kingdom. Well, for me, Breath of the Wild was one of the most enjoyable games I have ever experienced. The creativity and puzzle solving and the freedom that it gave you was unmatched. I mean, this game was thick with content. And assuming that Nintendo refines and improves on the formula that they had created then, I think the sequel very well could be worth $70. But for the love of God, remove durability and slipping in the rain. Come on, Nintendo, I beg you. And hey, games drop in price depending on their age and popularity. So if Tears of the Kingdom isn't worth $70, I'm sure it will drop in price eventually. Oh. You know what? I'm just gonna buy Bloodied Fear.